I'm Helen Wright, Deputy Editor of International Construction and Construction Europe magazines, and I'm here at Bauma 2013 on the Perkins stand with Allister Dennis, Product Manager. I started off by asking him about a big trend at the show, which is the launch of Tier 4 final engines.
Well, good morning and thanks for that introduction. What we're launching today at Bauma is the 854 Tier 4 final new engine range, and it builds on our Tier 4 interim 854 engine. What we're doing is changing some of the technology, so we're adding things like selective catalytic reduction SCR system in combination with a diesel oxidation catalyst to that engine range. We're also showing the rest of our Tier 4 final range. So 854 is the last model to be added to the range. We now have the complete suite of Tier 4 final engines launched and out into the public. And we're working with our customers to integrate those into their machines.
So the Tier 4 final model that you're speaking about uses SCR but no DPF. Can you explain a little bit about the thinking behind this? How did you avoid using a DPF?
So the 854 at Tier 4 interim used a combination of diesel oxidation catalyst and a DPF, a diesel particulate filter. What we've found at Tier 4 interim is that gave us an excellent product range which gave really good transient response, best-in-class fuel economy, and excellent power density, and that really established our applications, and across the range we used those technologies on 854, on the 4-cylinder 1204 engine, and on our 7-litre 1206. And what we found was we were aiming to get a really compact package, but liberate the space for a diesel particulate filter, which we did. And the reason we used the DPF at that point was to get those really good transient responses, best-in-class fuel economy, and the power density I mentioned. What we're doing at Tier 4 Final is building on those attributes and those performance characteristics, but what we find is we don't now need to use a DPF because we can introduce an SCR system into the mix. So SCR allows us to reduce the NOx from the package, but it doesn't all have to happen in the engine, so we can now reduce particulates within the engine and use the same space that we had for DPF. We can put the SCR system in that space, so it means minimum change actually for our OEMs.
Presumably there's a service advantage to that as well.
Well, actually it depends on the model. So for instance 1204 at Tier 4 interim was completely service free and lasted the lifetime of the engine, so we didn't actually need to do any kind of ash servicing or interval servicing. So really we take that benefit into Tier 4 final, so both on the 854 and the 1204 we don't use the DPF, and therefore of course we don't need to service anything, and the SCR is service free. So yes, we have that benefit both at interim and again at final.
But some of the Tier 4 final launches on the stand do use a DPF, and you've developed an integrated after-treatment module. Could you explain a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so if you look across the range, at the 854 kind of power range up to about 90 kilowatts, 56 to 90 kilowatts, we don't use a DPF. Again at 1204, which goes up to about 110 kilowatts without a DPF, and then we have an option from 110 kilowatts to 130 of either no DPF or a DPF depending on the customer requirement. Then over 130 kilowatts on the 1206 7.1 litre, we then start to use a DPF as well as SCR. Now when we do those sorts of things, as you go up in the range we start to make modular concepts for the after treatment system. So on the 854 we have components that you can mount anywhere around the engine bay or remotely, and that's because they're going into compact machines. They often have quite small engine bays. As you get into the 1204, which is a 4.4 litre, we start to have bigger machines, a bit more space, and we start to introduce modules. And then at 7.1 we have a module that includes DPF. And then what we do with those modules is really make sure that the whole installation is as simple as possible for the OEM. So we bring all of the components into a module. They're all integrated. There's no pipe work for the OEM to engineer in. There's no design work that the OEM needs to do. It's actually been done for them and put into a module, so it makes it much more of an easy installation for the customer. And because there's the space as you get to bigger machines, we can integrate that quite easily.
So let's talk about overall fluid efficiency. How does Tier 4 final compare with the Tier 4 interim models?
So Tier 4 interim, we made some great strides in fuel economy. So as I was talking about earlier, by using a diesel particulate filter, it allowed us to really tune the engine for maximum performance and best fuel economy. And if we look at the 1204, for instance, we achieved an 8% improvement in fuel economy over Tier 3, and that's just at the engine level. But what we then started to do was work with our customers to integrate into their machines and take a step further on the fuel economy success. So for instance, some of the machines that were powered by the 1204, which are now coming to the marketplace, achieved up to 19% fuel economy improvements over Tier 3. And that was due to the ability of using the DPF, and it allowed us to then, with the electronic side of things, integrate with transmissions and tune the engine to get best fuel economy. So you had more areas where you could sort of tune different elements, DPF, electronics, fuel injection equipment, and that gave us the benefit at the engine level. And then when we matched that into the machine, we could get a machine benefit. So one of the things we did at Tier 4 Interim was introduce something called a Technology Integration Workshop, a TIW. And we use those with our OEM customers, and we've done something like 500 different machine installations on behalf of our customers at the design stage. And we're going beyond that into performance matching, optimizing the engine, optimizing transmissions. And that workshop concept is something we now take forward across all sorts of different models, whether it's Tier 4 Interim or Stage 3, for instance.
Thank you very much for your time, Allister. Much appreciated.
Okay.